Welcome to Gardening with Ben, the podcast where we dig into the soil of our gardens and the depths of our green thumbs. I'm your host Ben, here to guide you through the joys of gardening, from sowing seeds to reaping bountiful harvests. Each episode will explore tips, tricks and tales from the garden and allotment, sharing insights from ourselves and stories from our own back garden adventures. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just getting your hands dirty for the first time, there's something here for everyone. So grab your brew and gardening gloves and let's get growing with Gardening with Ben. Hello and welcome to Catch Up with Gardening with Ben, the podcast where your gardening dreams can take root. I'm Ben, your host, and every episode we'll be digging deep into the world of gardening and allotments, from tips for beginners to advice for the seasoned green thumbs. We've got you covered, so grab your gloves, grab your coffee and let's get growing. So in this episode we're going to have a little catch up of what we've been up to down at our allotment, as I know people like to find out what I've been getting up to and what I've been doing so that they can keep up to date and so that they can try starting some stuff off or doing some bits like I've been doing. And I know people like to find out what I've been up to, as I do get a lot of comments asking me what I've been doing down at the allotment, etc, etc. So sit back, relax and let's enjoy today's episode. So what have I been up to down at the allotment? Well, I've not been down to the plot for the last 2 days, I must admit that, as it's been absolutely freezing. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a rest, I'm going to have a lie-in. So I did actually have a lie-in and I had a nice sleep and I've kept nice and warm, and I thought, the allotment can wait. I've done a lot this winter and I'm on track with getting it all up and ready for next year, well for this year, and getting it ready for the growing season. So I thought I'm going to stay nice and warm and get some bits and bobs done at home done, and obviously record these podcasts for you so that you've got some for the next few days, as they seem to be doing really well at the moment and we're getting lots of listens on our platforms. So what have we been up to down at the allotment? Well, recently I've been doing a lot of clearing and tidying and weeding, which is the main focus over the winter period. I'm currently digging up all where my beds are, straightening them all back up, re-screwing them together so that they're strong, 'cause some of them had snapped off, some of the wood had rotten, so it's a case of taking all the beds apart and getting them all sorted. I'm trying to line them up a bit better because they're all over the place at the moment. They're not particularly straight, and I know if people see photos of it they'll think that's a bit wonky. So I'm trying to straighten them up a bit and make them look a lot better than they actually are. And obviously I'm improving my paths as well and getting all them sorted, because a lot of them are just black membrane, so I'm putting paving slabs down, I'm putting wood chip down. It's all going to look really fancy come this summertime, and I just want it to look really nice so that I can get some good pictures, share some good tips with you and share some advice. So I want it to look really good, and like I say, my social media's doing well at the moment, so I want to show off what I've been up to. And this year I'm hoping to obviously get my YouTube back up and running and do more on my Instagram pages and my TikTok, sharing tips and advice on just how to do stuff and little tips and things what I do. So I've now obviously rebuilt all my shed at my allotment and it's looking absolutely fantastic on the inside. Still a few little bits that I need to do, but I'll be able to start filming content in there, and obviously once I'm sowing all my seeds and planting them up and potting them up and getting my harvest so that I can show you more what I'm doing down at the plot. And there's going to be so much content coming out this year for you all to keep up to date on, because like I've been saying is that I've been lacking this last year of the content for you all to see, and hence why I've got my podcast back up and running and I'm shooting out all these episodes for you to listen to. They're only nice and short, sweet episodes. I didn't think people would want to listen to 30 minutes, so they're usually about 10 to 15 minutes long episodes for you to listen to. So hopefully we can start growing as a community again. And thankfully, I've not lost any of my followers in the year that I've not been going live for you all and doing my podcasts. So I'm glad to have you all still around and listening. So over the time, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll start to grow and people will pick up and more people listen to the podcast. And obviously, everything goes back into my allotment to share with you all. So looking around at my allotment at the moment, I've got so many bulbs that are popping through the ground. I can't believe how many are starting to show. It's so exciting to see, and they're all starting to pop through. I've got my crocuses popping through, my hyacinths are popping through, my tulips, my daffodils, my irises. So it's going to look absolutely fantastic come springtime. And next year I will be adding a load more spring bulbs to my plot. Each year I do add possibly around 500 bulbs to my plot because I want it to look so nice and so pretty for you all. And it attracts the bees. That's the most important thing of my plot, is getting the bees to my plot and letting them enjoy it and just see the benefits from getting the bees to the plot, which will get more fruit on the plot and more pollination happening. So the more flowers we have on a plot, the more the bees will come and enjoy it. So hopefully in the next few months you'll be seeing loads and loads of photos of all the spring flowers and the blooms down at the plot, as obviously they do look beautiful in the photos. So stay tuned for all them photos to come, because I certainly will bombard you with all them. But looking around as well in my new rhubarb patch, which I've done, well, it's not new, it's an old rhubarb patch, but I've slightly improved it to make it look nicer. It was just on black membrane down around the rhubarb crowns and around my fruit trees, but this year I've put wood chip all over the black membrane and around the fruit trees and around the rhubarbs, so it all looks really nice now. And obviously putting wood chip down around my rhubarb crowns, it's warmed the ground up a lot more, and all the rhubarb crowns are shooting through a very lot now, and the rhubarb's coming on really well. To be honest, it shouldn't be growing this well at the moment. It shouldn't be waking up yet. It should be still asleep and dormant, but it is growing. And obviously, when we do get the cold weather, what's meant to be forecast, and the snow possibly, it probably will kill the rhubarb back off again, and then it'll wake back up again when it starts to warm up. But at the moment, it's looking absolutely fantastic, and the rhubarb is looking really nice and healthy. But you never know, if it does stay warm, we may be having some rhubarb crumble in January at this rate. But yeah, we'll have to stay tuned for that. So I've obviously pruned all my fruit trees. They're all nicely pruned back, ready for the year ahead. And I've got one last job. What I need to do on them is put a winter wash on them, which is meant to protect them from the winter moth, which nests on the fruit trees and which can cause bugs in the fruit. So I need to put a winter wash on them. I purchased some wash from Amazon last year it was, so I'll be spraying all them. I just put them in a big sprayer and just spray them all, and you're meant to do it again around springtime. So I've got that job to do. Hopefully on a dry cold day we'll get that done when it's not raining, because we don't want it to wash straight back again off. We want it to stay on the trees and protect the trees. So we've got that job still to do. And my strawberry plants, they're all pretty much died back at the moment. Obviously when the warm weather comes, we'll start to see those sending out the shoots, sending out the buds, and start growing again. But we've got about 80 strawberry plants in my shed, which I'll start planting out probably around March time when it does warm up. I could leave them outside where they'll stay watered, but I wanted to put them in my shed so that they can grow a bit better and a bit faster, and hopefully provide bigger plants so that we get better crops from them. But I'm going to try some little tips on my strawberries next year. I've seen loads of pictures online of people buying these wedding favour bags and tying them around the strawberries to protect them from getting eaten from bugs and slugs and stuff like that. And people say they work fantastic, so I may be purchasing a load of those wedding favour bags that you can get. They're like Hessian ones. They let the rain and the stuff through them, but they just protect them from the slugs and the bugs. So we may be purchasing some of those, and obviously the ants can't get through them as well because they're really small holes. So we might be getting some of those. So stay tuned to see how well we get on with that. And yeah, I've been busy at home as well with getting things ready and started. I've planted some beef-sized tomato seeds, and they are currently shooting up. They have grown within like a week and getting tall already. Obviously, you've got to be careful with growing stuff indoors as it can get kind of leggy, and obviously they go towards the light, so you've got to keep turning them around. And you never know, we might have some beef tomatoes growing pretty well next year. I wanted to start them off early because beef tomatoes are obviously big tomatoes, so we want to get hopefully a bigger crop of them and hopefully get them ripened in time rather than them ripening towards the end of the year. So I've started some of those off and they're looking really good. I'll have to post a picture of them soon. And you never know, may have to start potting them up to be honest, because they are getting too big for the pot. And I'll give you some tips and advice on how I've started my tomato seeds off in another podcast. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. And also peppers. I talked in another podcast about the peppers that I purchased. I purchased some red, green and yellow normal sized peppers rather than buying the seeds this year because I thought you get more seeds in a pepper than you do in a packet of seeds and it's cheaper. So why not just use the seeds from the peppers, because I used the seeds from the tomatoes last year, so I'll try it with peppers this year. And I've scraped them all out and got hundreds of seeds from each pepper because you know how many seeds there are in a pepper, there's loads. So I've separated them all, put them all into little bowls. I've labelled all the bowls up, which one's red, which one's green, which one's yellow. So they've all dried out now. So we need to get those planted next week. That's my to-do list the next week, get my peppers planted. Because pepper plants do need to start off early to get a good reliable crop. So you do need to start sowing peppers around now and February time. So start looking around at growing your peppers. And also, I've got some mini peppers. They're like baby peppers. They're in Tesco. They're like a multi-pack of red, green and yellow ones, but they're very small ones. They're like chili size, but they're actually peppers. They're not chilies. So we purchased some of those and they're like orange ones, yellow ones and red ones. So I'm looking forward to trying those. I might get a better crop from them than the actual peppers themselves because obviously normal peppers take a long time to grow them big ones. So if they're small, hopefully we might get a bigger and better crop of them. So I'm looking forward to them and seeing if we do get a fantastic crop from these pepper plants. So you'll have to stay tuned for that one as well. So we're going to be planting those in the next week or so and getting those planted. And we should be well on our way. And I've got two amaryllises at home as well, a red one and a white one. And they're just about ready to start flowering. And I can't wait for that to happen. We purchased these back in November when they started going on sale in the supermarkets. So I purchased two of those and they're just about to flower. So they're getting really tall now as they do. So we'll stay tuned and hopefully, you never know, in the next week they might start to open up and we might get some actual flowers from these amaryllis plants. One job that I do need to start doing though is starting to look for my potatoes ready for growing as well, because now is the time to start looking at whether you're chitting them and starting to get the shoots growing on them and get them ready for growing this year and seeing what crops that I want to try and grow. I'm going to grow them in boxes again this year. Last year I grew them in boxes and I had a fantastic crop And the benefit with growing them in boxes is that you're not having to dig all the tunnels from to laying, and obviously growing them in boxes, you don't have to dig them out. You can just empty the boxes out and you won't have any risk of digging through any of the potatoes, which is a constant thing for me. I'll end up trying to fork them up and I end up breaking through a potato and ruining it. So it's a way of saving those potatoes. You actually get every potato that you harvest rather than just chopping through them like I always do. And another thing with growing them in boxes, potatoes rather than in the ground, is that you get every potato out of the soil. Whereas if you grow them in the ground, you could end up leaving a few in there and they'll grow again next year. And you don't want to be growing potatoes in the same spot every year. You need to rotate them every year in a different area for growing potatoes. So with growing them in boxes, you don't have the risk of them popping back through year after year without forgetting to get them out. And obviously boxes, you can just wash them out, make sure that there's no diseases in them, just disinfect them, clean them up, and then you can start growing them again. And if you want an earlier crop, you could start them off in the polytunnel and plant them in a box in a polytunnel or in a greenhouse. Start them off a bit earlier, and then when the chance of frost has gone, you can take them outside and they'll grow fast. And you'll get an earlier crop. So that's another little tip for you there. So we've got lots to do at the allotment. We've done lots, but we've still got lots to do. Like I say, I've cleared about half of my plot. We've got that sorted. Oh, and I've wood chipped round an area that I started last year. The top of my plot, which I'd not touched for 16, 17 years that I had it, I decided to give it a tackle the other year, and I cleared it all, and I made some beds in it with some bricks, and I laid black membrane down for the paths, tidied it all up, fenced it all off, weeded it all, dug all the big roots out what had been in there for years, and we got all that nice and tidied. And we had some wood chip delivered to our allotment site, and I managed to claim some, and I've wood chipped all around them beds now, and it looks absolutely fantastic. We did have some herbs in there, but some of those have died off and not taken, so we need to plant some more herbs next year in these areas and some flowers, and it should look absolutely stunning. It's under a big sycamore tree, which is not helpful because all the sycamore seeds grow everywhere, but it's like a woodland area, which is really nice. So I need to look at types of woodland plants to grow, so I might be growing some alpines and things around there. So we'll stay tuned on that. I'm gonna pop that down on my list to start looking at alpines and plants to grow in woodland areas, and hopefully we can get a nice area growing around there. So we've got plenty to do. Like I said, this year is going to look absolutely stunning on my plot this year. I'm putting so much time and effort into it. Hopefully we'll reap the good rewards from my plot, and you'll see the benefits of what I've got up to down at the plot. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode today. It has been a nice long one. And yeah, if you've not started following me on these podcasts, do click that follow button, do click that subscribe button, and you'll get notified when new podcasts come up. And they're coming up pretty regular now, so make sure you stay tuned for them. If you've not left feedback, please leave feedback on the podcast, and then more people will listen as well. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everybody. Thank you for listening. And that wraps up another episode of Gardening with Ben. Thank you for joining me in this journey. Remember, every seed planted is a step towards a greener world, and every day is a chance to grow something beautiful. Keep nurturing your gardens and your souls. Until next time, I'm Gardening with Ben, reminding you to let your garden be your sanctuary. Happy gardening, and see you in the next episode. Remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben.